According to Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network, New Orleans Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas wants to be traded, and the Jaguars are a favorite landing spot for the All-Pro wide receiver. So to give you a little backup on Michael Thomas was a second-round pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, and he really caught fire right away in the NFL. In each of his first 4 seasons, he put up over 1,000 yards, including a monster year in 2019 where he had 1,725 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, and an NFL record 149 receptions. Now, 2020 was kind of a down year for him. I mean, he suffered a high ankle sprain in week 1, and then he was going to return before week 5, but he allegedly punched a teammate, which kind of held him out for a little bit. Later in the year, he was put on the IR before returning in the playoffs to play the very first game of it. And then in total, he had 9 games, 40 receptions, and 0 touchdowns. So definitely a down year for him. He had about 400 receiving yards on top of that. And it's been really a weird offseason for him. Now, the New Orleans Saints were kind of encouraging him to get surgery. They were like, get surgery on your ankle. We need to fix it. We need you back full strength. But he personally sought out some more opinions on his ankle. And then he had 2 options, get the surgery or rehab it. So he decided, okay, I'm just going to go rehab it on my own. So they let him do his thing. And apparently he wasn't answering his phone for 3 months. There was no communication the whole entire offseason between the final playoff game and OTAs. And then he came back to OTAs and he didn't rehab his ankle at all. It flat out wasn't rehabbed. So then all of a sudden the Saints were like, okay, what the heck? And then he opted to get surgery. So he had surgery basically in June after OTAs, and now he is going to be out. He's out all of training camp, all of preseason, and he's not really set to return until about 5 games into, or he's projected to miss the first 5 weeks of the season, and that's kind of a rough timetable kind of for that. So obviously it's been a really kind of rough offseason for Michael Thomas. So you had to kind of carry along that. But the thing is, like, should the Jaguars potentially make a move for him? You know, the number one option kind of being thrown out there is cornerback CJ Henderson, who obviously he's had a weird offseason as well. He, got put on the IR last year with a groin injury. Then he had some shoulder issues that lingered into training camp. And then he came back. Then he missed some time due to personal reasons. And then now it's just his body language just isn't there. And I made kind of a video on it last time. But the thing is, it's a weird situation right now with the Jaguars and CJ Henderson. And then a report came out that apparently the Jaguars are looking for options to trade him. And then the New Orleans Saints, on the other hand, are looking to find a cornerback. So they're actively going around the NFL really shopping for a guy. And there's an obvious connection between the Jaguars and Michael Thomas, because Michael Thomas played for Urban Meyer at Ohio State. And I remember when I first saw this, I was like, okay, the old Ohio State, Urban Meyer connection, like he played for the guy, like big deal. But honestly, like apparently he had a very, very big impact on Michael Thomas. Urban Meyer did, and Michael Thomas really praises Urban Meyer for just all he's done to help him in his life, and he has a real respect for Urban Meyer. So that's an obvious connection right there. And I don't know, when I look at the situation, I would totally be open to trading for Michael Thomas. But before that happens, Urban Meyer needs to have a conversation with Michael Thomas, because I don't know if it's against rules or what, but I know there's got to be some way to get him on the phone and just say, okay, what's going on with you? Why didn't you have the surgery? What's going on with you over here? You punched a player last year. Like, what is going on with you mentally? Because obviously if we had baloney eating Doug Marrone, I probably would not want to do this, because I'm like, okay, why bring in a guy that had a questionable offseason? Trade him for a guy that's been having a questionable offseason right now. You're just kind of switching issues. But this is a different situation where Urban Meyer, it feels like he could probably talk some sense into him and really get on the same level as him and potentially connect with him in a way that Sean Payton might not have been able to do it. Now, it's probably going to cost to trade for him basically CJ Henderson and maybe like a 3rd round pick. Now, it's not very advantageous for the Saints to trade away Michael Thomas, because if they were to trade him away, they would have to eat $32 million of dead cap $32 million in dead cap. That is an unreal amount of money. But if the situation comes where Michael Thomas flat out refuses to play, I don't know if their hands are going to be kind of tied, or if, a situation where they bring in CJ Henderson. CJ Henderson is on a rookie deal, and it's very, good for them because he has 3 years left on his deal with a 5th-year option. So that's another thing. And the Jaguars can be in a situation where they are able to unload CJ Henderson because of Shaquille Griffin, because of the 33rd overall pick Tyson Campbell. They have Sidney Jones in there who they feel comfortable with. Obviously, it's going to kind of break apart the depth a little bit, as Herndon is just one play away from being a starter again, and we don't really want that. But, a few years ago, I would have sat here and said, I don't want to do this, you know what I mean? I want to save the draft capital. I want to bring in this guy and do all this. But you know what, guys? I'm tired of being the young team that has all this potential. I'm done with it. You see these teams like the Rams be making these big trades. You see these teams like the Ravens be making these big trades, and they're over there always in the playoffs all the time. But you see these teams like the Jets, that are just like accumulating all this draft capital, and they do nothing. The Dolphins do the same thing. The Jaguars do the same thing. I'm tired of being that team. We have to start going balls to the walls. We have to be aggressive. Michael Thomas is a former All-Pro player. And honestly, I know I'm gonna get some heat for this, but I am fading on on DJ Chark a little bit. Urban Meyer's gone out there and he did not like his tape from last year, and he's been working with him really hard this year in individual stuff. Urban Meyer sees his potential, but right now, that's all he is right now. All he is potential. I know we had a great year in 2019, but I'm tired of being the team with a lot of potential, man. We have so much potential. Mike Thomas has done it. 4 1,000-yard seasons. You know what I mean? He has that skill set. He has an NFL record, 149 receptions in one season, man. The Jaguars are due to pay a receiver in just 1 year, whether it be DJ Chark, who's in a contract year right now. Marvin Jones only signed a 2-year deal, so he's going to have 1 year left on his deal next year. You know what I mean? There's going to be a need for a receiver one way or another next year. We could bang this out right now, bring Michael Thomas in. I know he has a pretty decent contract. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because I don't know with the technicalities, how much the Saints have to eat, or how much the Jaguars have to eat, or whatever. But you know what, man? I'm down to make this trade. I would literally give them CJ Henderson and a 3rd-round pick for Michael Thomas. You know what I mean? I know he's going to miss the first few weeks of the season, but I'm okay with that, man. Bring in a bona fide superstar, All-Pro type of player, a guy that is familiar with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer knows exactly what he's getting out of him. And boom, man, another weapon for Trevor Lawrence. That would be interesting, man. I would even consider a CJ Henderson and DJ Chark trade for Michael Thomas. So those are my thoughts. I know it's been a sketchy offseason, but while Michael Thomas, he didn't have the surgery or whatever, and then it's interesting because Michael Thomas wanted to have the surgery apparently in 2020, but the Saints really wanted him back, so they did not want him to get it, which he apparently re-aggravated it. And then once Michael Thomas chooses his own path for his health, the Saints did not want him to go about that. So I don't know. It's an interesting situation, but it looks like that relationship over there has kind of fallen apart in a way. So I'm down to be an aggressive team, to be a winning team, to be what these organizations do that have success, and be bold and make a trade like this. Let me know your thoughts. And also, guys, the fantasy football is open right now. I'm holding fantasy football leagues for the members of the channel. So if you guys are interested in joining for as low as $3 a month, I'm going ahead and opening that. But with all that said, let me know your thoughts on the Michael Thomas trade down below. I'll see you guys next time. You guys watched the whole video. Really appreciate that. You guys can subscribe to the channel for the best source of Jaguars news on the YouTube platform. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at UCF_Jaguar. And you can become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month for exclusive channel content. Thank you guys, and go Jags.